Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts on that? And I think going back to, and Jennifer, I think you phrased the question better about the general obligation bond. Kind of what would you want to see in that, or how would you want it advertised to the community, sold to the community? What do you think we would need for the community to support it? Um, Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I mean, it's a lot of work to put something like that on the ballot. And so you'd have to give careful thought as to how it, what it is, what the goal is, what it's going to pay for in a way that would be most likely to be supported by voters. And so if there, I think council would have lots of policy choices to make. And so to the extent this group could help provide input on that, I think would be useful.
So can I ask one question? I think of the group related to that is go alone, single purpose bond, or would you have any advice to the council of pair that with other city needs at the same time? So public safety facility, parks and open space, just even bike ped infrastructure. You can pick any number of other needs that are unfunded. Bad idea, good idea from the lens of feasibility and collecting kind of coalitions.
We got about 7 questions for you in that. But who have I not started with? I'm gonna start with Kenny, I
think. Can I have a second to think about this one?
Yes, you can. Anyone feel like jumping in?
I'm happy to jump in. So as far as just focusing on affordable housing in the bond, I think there's, based on the graph that's on page like 20 something that talks about all the levels of housing that this is going to try to fund, like it goes less than 60 all the way to 120. I think that's a broad enough amount of households in our community that you're probably not going to get the visceral reaction that came with some of the other housing ideas that came through in the past. I also see Will's point of potentially including it in multiple other things that are unfunded, because the other thing is that most people have one thing that they're very passionate about, and maybe they have 1 to 4 things that they're really passionate about. But if you include, like, let's fund, public safety, let's fund blah, blah, blah. Like, if all of these things are included, there's going to be one thing that really catches someone's eye or catches someone's want to make sure that that thing continues or is better funded. So I see the benefit of that too. But if it were to go solo as a bond on its own for housing, I think there's a broad enough use for the funding that it should be slightly easier, in my opinion, which is not real intense, but it seems to be better.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, all of this, I'm fully acknowledging this is being thrown at you with no warning. So, personal opinion, you don't need to feel like you're speaking for the entire community. But Rudy, I think you look like you're ready to go.
So, inflation is at an all-time high. We're paying like $5 a gallon for gas. Blah blah blah. Right? I think your political environment in the next year or so is going to be really challenging to ask people for a lot of money for many things, because they're already going to be paying a lot of money for everything in their daily life. And I think political consultants study this for a living, so that they give you better advice than me. But I wouldn't intermingle, money for affordable housing and these kind of general bonds that we think we can target for very specific programs to tackle affordable housing issues. I wouldn't intermingle them with other stuff. because I think it gets diluted. I think there's a lot of enemies for other stuff. There's going to be people who say, well, I don't want this or I want that, and you'll have a casualty of war, and you'll have collateral damage, right? So I would keep this very simple, and I would keep it focused, and I would explain to voters exactly what they're going to get, and this is how much it's going to cost you per assessed dollar, and this is what the city is going to do with that money. Ask for other things on separate ballots or on other initiatives or at other times, but I would not be rolling things together when people are paying $5 a gallon for gas, and things are about to get really, really expensive in real life.
Thank you, Rudy. Kenny, you feel up for coming back around?
I don't like this question.
You're not required to answer.
I mean, it's like I'm not a Hood River resident, so I can easily say, yeah, go ahead with it. I guess from a client service perspective, and as an owner of or operator of a nonprofit, I actually don't like the income levels going up higher, particularly because it takes away. I totally understand trying to gain support for something like this, but I think it dilutes from the impact that we're trying to have on lower income households that can't afford to live and work in the same city, which includes a lot of my staff who can't afford to live and work in Hood River. So those are my comments. I have trouble with this one.
With the GO bonds, it wouldn't necessarily need to have the same income spectrum that the affordable housing strategy has. It could be more targeted, maybe under 80% or something. That's an option.
The other thing, Will, that I think might be helpful to talk about a little bit is I've heard you talk about the difference in costs for building rental units versus building ownership units. And I was just struck by how, and this is in reference to the Rand Road property. And I was just struck by how big a difference that was, and how much more you could get done with rental properties than ownership properties. It's just, they're really different in terms of financing.
Right. Yeah, that's what we found by actually going out and soliciting proposals. Is you get a lot more units built if they're rentals. That's just where the state and federal funding is, and so that's where you can get more leverage. But in that sense of, having a missing rung may be worth paying double to get to add at least a few units in that missing rung. Certainly where, money can be the answer to that hard question.
I wasn't suggesting no units in that missing realm. It's just the amount of impact you can make is just really different.
Yes. Yeah, you can't leverage as much outside funding.
Stu, Nate, Karen, I'm gonna start with Stu, I guess, or Nate. Go for it.
The only thing I would say is, in terms of if you're going to structure a bond, I can't. Am I unmuted? Okay, good. I can't help but going back to the library bond, and one of the things, I think one of the big lessons from that, and I won't go into ancient history on it, but one of the important things was the initial version of it. This is county-wide, but there was no real explanation of what the money was going to be spent on. So the immediate answer was no. So when I think Arthur really dug in and worked with the library folks and said, hey, if you're going to ask people for 75 cents, or whatever you're going to ask them for, you really need to tell them what you're going to do with it. And so I think whatever specificity you can add, if you're going to do a bond, and I don't really care if it blends 10 different things, be very specific about what those 10 things are so you're not caught out when people ask you, well, okay, well, if I'm going to pay you this, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. We're going to do some stuff. Do some stuff doesn't get a yes vote, but doing something specific gets either a yes or a no. But you can float the idea out there a lot better and understand what your chances are if you have specificity in those line items within that bond. That's my only suggestion. I don't think it's a bad idea, and I think Stu's point is really well put, which is float it out there. You're going to find out real quick where your level of support for this whole initiative is, and if it's not good, then you got to retool the whole thing. If you don't try that, you may never know what your overall support looks like. So,
Thanks, Nate. Stu?
I would just add to Nate's thoughts that, and to Rudy's point earlier, that a market basket bond issue is more likely to bring in people who are opposed to any number of the components that you're going to fund. So if you keep it more focused on a single benefit, say in this particular case, for instance, affordable housing, land purchases, and it's a simple message, then you find out. You don't torpedo it by loading on sewer and enhancements and sidewalks and a mix of things that many people may not find of any particular appeal. But so keep it simple.
And I kind of agree with the keep it simple. I think I was going to be next or somewhere near next.
Thank you. Anything else, Karen?
No, that's it. Just I if I was voting, I wouldn't want to vote for something that's has a lot of things in it. I would prefer something smaller, more simple.
Awesome. Well, anything else? Nate, you've got your hand raised maybe from before. Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, Jennifer, thanks for the suggestion. This is super great feedback for me and council. I don't have anything else to ask, but Stu, do you have something to add?
Yeah. If I could just add one more thing on that bond measure thing, I think the comparison that we might want to think about is when the schools go out, right? They specifically have in like the most recent thing that the Hood River Schools did a few years back. It was like 73 million. They're thinking bonding for a bunch of enhancements around the district, but people knew what they were getting, what they were being asked to support. And because you had a broad base of people who benefited from that, who had kids in the school system, it had sort of a built-in constituency of appeal who could see the benefit to them and their families. And other people who maybe didn't have kids but planned to have kids could see some benefit down the road to the overall quality of life in the community from that. So it was, I think you'd sometimes generate more enthusiasm for things like that when people can answer the question very easily of what's in it for me, what am I going to get? And in the case of affordable housing, that may not be the home run that you want it to be. Some people may see some benefit in, but they're probably not paying taxes at the point that the thing goes out because they're renters already. I mean, they're paying it indirectly through their rent rates. But so the sell is going to be a critical question. And you'll have consultants that'll help you figure out how to market the thing so that you can get support for it. But different beasts.
Well, thank you all again for answering some surprise questions that I didn't even know about. And again, just in general, I don't know, Jennifer, Beth, I'm not sure if you've got other things you want to cover.
I think I'll hand it over to Jennifer.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to find my button there. I don't have a lot more that I want to cover except to really, again, say thank you, because you've spent several of your evenings on 2-hour Zoom meetings with us, and we've gotten some incredibly valuable input that will have benefited the project so far, will benefit the refinements going forward to council, and will help council think about some of these issues and policy choices they need to make, and implementation choices going forward. But in addition to the time spent in the meetings, you've spent time reading the materials ahead of time, providing us comments. And so I really want to thank everybody again for all of your time and effort. You've become, I hope, more familiar with some of the things that the city has already done and will be doing. And if you're not already, I will send a link out to everybody to get connected to city happenings through our newsletters. And I hope that you will stay connected with what is happening in the city. We periodically have openings on things like Planning Commission, Budget Committee has an opening right now, Landmarks Review Board has an opening right now. So I hope you will stay engaged with things that the city is doing, and most importantly, stay engaged with this project. This is going to be going to council at the end of April. And so I'll keep you in the loop about details for that. And I also want to give a special thanks to Ami Santian, who turned on her camera. She has been doing a lot of behind the scenes work and not getting very much recognition. She's taken notes at all of these meetings, helped make sure that the Zoom runs smoothly. She helped with scheduling and executing a lot of the listening sessions. So I also want to make sure that you all are aware of the work she's been putting into this project. But I also just really appreciate what I've learned from these meetings from all of you, from the input that you've provided. So I really thank you for that. I've learned a lot in this process.
Nate, you have your hand up.
I just want to reiterate, and I hope that your partner in crime is willing to at least send out that other doc that she worked on for the other community. I think that could be super helpful. I don't know if it needs to end up in the packet, but maybe it can. I mean, I would like to see it. I think it's apropos of what we've been talking about.
Emily is a great partner in crime, and she worked hard on that document. So
Emily, throw that to all of us. We'd love to see it. Thank you.
I just realized my name has been Beth Goodman this whole time, so that's funny.
That's okay. Emily Pica.
Final note, I just wanted to thank the city staff for attending all these meetings and being so available and welcoming to our questions, curiosity. You guys are a font of knowledge and invaluable. I would say also that if I could encourage the city of Hood River to annex my neighborhood. I happen to live just outside. I'm in the urban growth boundary, but not in the city limits. And I would feel much more comfortable weighing in on telling the city what to do if I were a fully tax-paying resident of the city. So,
Stu, are you trying to become the most? Yeah, you're trying to become the most unpopular person in Stonegate, aren't you?
No, I'm not in Stonegate. I'm just north of Stonegate.
Dude, let your septic system go to rot, and you'll have to get connected to the sewer. You'll be the annexation. You'll be the node that gets it done.
This is an interesting little story here. I mean, I'm sure it was a violation of land use law. Sometime in the 90s, this subdivision was approved by the county and developed with 3 different utility supports: ice fountain water for domestic use, farmers irrigation for yard watering, and we are connected to the city of Hood River sewer system. So how does that make sense?
It's not the only neighborhood like that, Stu.
Oh, I'm sure not. And I mean, it's like, I just can't help but think that people were getting greased back then, because why the state didn't crack, I don't know. Anyway, so my wife and I were when we bought this place, we said, we want to be annexed. We feel like we're part of Hood River. Make it happen. But anyway, my neighbors don't like me for that opinion. So what?
That's a great idea for a geo bond. Why don't we do a mass annexation of all the urban growth area? there's a lot of shovel-ready dirt right now that's sitting out there that really can't be sold because the cost to do anything with it is too high because the cost of annexation is what it is, both in complication and, you know, lawyer fees and hookups. So let's do a geo bond for that.
Already got 2 settlements, Nate. Already tried to do it. Already got sued. Done.
Lynn Gunther tried to do that a few years ago, and then when he realized the cost of hooking up to the Hood River water system and paying Ice Fountain for our exit, it was totally untenable. So they abandoned the idea. So it's complex, isn't it?
Thanks everybody for having me and for listening to me rant about things I don't know about. I'll see you guys in other forums, I'm sure. I really enjoy working with you all and learning more about everything.
Thanks for your expertise, Rudy, and everybody else here.
Yeah, Rudy.
Thank you, Beth, for leading all of these meetings. And
you guys have been great.
Again, if anybody has any thoughts that come to mind after we are done this evening and you want to share them with us, please send us an email. Preferably by Monday or Tuesday, so we can make sure they get incorporated into the final draft.
Jennifer, are you gonna do a call out to the other folks that are on the meeting to provide feedback as well?
The folks who didn't make it tonight?
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely will. It's on my list to do tomorrow morning.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Any other last words?
On behalf of the city staff, Jennifer, Ami, the Echo team, I wanted to thank you all for really investing your time in your life. Time is valuable, and you know we really appreciate your willingness to serve you know, the city and the future residents and those who are most in need. So that's really honorable on your part, and we are super thankful to help that. So you know, really on behalf of everyone who's been involved in this project, on the front end, the voice pieces and those, you know, the plumbing pieces, you know, we're all different parts of this body, and you know, we are indebted to you for doing this. And the good news is, as we mentioned, now the work begins. So we'll be back, and we trust that you'll be there too. So this is a long haul project, and we'll continue to be at it. So thank you all for supporting us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.